Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into the microphone. Why? Well, just because I can. And I continue with Dragon Commander. I will slowly move my forces towards the last enemy's stronghold. But I must build quite an army before I assault it, because last time it didn't really end well for me.
Once your opponent...
Once more, I find myself siding with Catherine, Commander. The army could do with a dollop of the feminine touch, which is not weaker, but most certainly wiser than its male counterpart.
Commander, I do hope you'll not contemplate the madcap designs of General Catherine. Women in the army. Who ever heard of such folly? Men lead, men fight. Women follow. Food provide. Every undead knows that rhyme by heart, for such is the will of the Seven.
So if she wants women in the army, that is kind of strange, because she is a woman and she's already in the army, so I wasn't aware that
Commander?
Yes, Commander?
there is such a problem.
Sup, Commander?
Pestilence take me, Commander, if the vices of men aren't harder to stamp out than all the weeds in the wilderness. Where my inquisitors go, they wither. Where they leave, bloom anew in all their obscene glory. I merely try to protect women from the abject horrors that are rape and pillage, yet I find myself fighting a battle so uphill as to be vertical. To pinpoint the fundamental problem is easy. The army is run by men, for men. Now, one can train a dog to behave, but men, lacking even canine cunning, one cannot. The solution to the problem is therefore equally easy. Replace them with women. I'm not even going to be unreasonable, Commander. I could have advocated mass sterilization, for instance. No. I merely demand that you sack half of the male officers and replace them with women. They'll run the army better no matter how, and they'll see to it that not quite dogs, aka soldiers, either behave or hang.
Okay, that's basically a nonsensical proposition, because it doesn't take merit into account. She just says fire half the men and replace them with women, but it's nonsensical. You should hire people based on their experience and their accomplishment, and not on their sex. So while I am sympathetical to the idea of there being more female officers, I will not just fire half of the men and replace them with women. That is kind of nonsensical. I want my officers to be chosen based on merit, not anatomical features. Blindly replacing officers could have a very bad effect on the efficiency of my armies. Not to mention, it's kind of unjust, in my opinion.
And wherein lies that merit? Do they keep score of how many innocent lives they destroy by means of the sword, by fire, by assault? 50 points and you're made captain? 100 to be major? Wham bam, another tortured mom, and here's your colonel's rank? You disgust me, Commander. Your presence makes me wretch.
So shut up, you're not really... you're rather unreasonable about it. Like, we could have had a discussion, but you were just like, fire half the men and replace them with women, and that's that. It's kind of nonsensical.
Commander, we imps think it is a terrible shame and waste that the consumption of orc meat is outlawed. All because of the elves, of course. Damn them! Look, we already use these creatures like we use oxen and horses, so why not eat them as well? It's cheap meat, so many of your poor citizens would only be too glad for the opportunity.
That's weird. If we use them as horses and beasts of burden, then they must not be sentient, so...
The orc is a filthy beast, Commander. Immoral and impure. Depravity has been bred into them over countless generations. Partake in their flesh, and their impurity will taint your blood. Beware, Commander. Beware of this corruption.
Mr. Shortfuse is correct. It is we elves who sought to abolish the sordid practice of eating orcs some decades ago, and we succeeded on the basis of morality. Let us not revert to the practices of less enlightened days. Agreed, Commander?
Like, it all rests on whether they are sentient or
Trinculo
no.
is quite right, Commander. Orc meat is cheap and nutritious. Or so I'm told. I myself would never touch the stuff. But there's fortunes to be made selling it to those who can't afford pork, beef, or mutton. It would be an act of philanthropy, Commander.
Like, that is a point to me, provided they are not a sentient race. If they are just beasts of burden, like horses, I don't see anything wrong, per se, with eating horses. Or even eating dogs. Like, it's only a cultural thing in the West that we view dogs as companions and don't eat them, but if you go east, they eat them just like they do, I don't know, pork or beef, or in some cases they don't eat beef and pork because of religious reasons, but whatever. It all, like, there isn't really much practical difference. You can either say that eating meat, period, is wrong because it causes animal suffering, and that is something that I can respect, but those differences are sort of negligible. There isn't really any moral difference between devouring a pig and a dog. It's only an emotional one.
Commander, orcs are vile and cruel, but we in turn treat them vilely and cruelly. I am against their use as slaves in the first place, so I don't condone their consumption. They may not be one of the recognized civilized races, but they have a language and a culture of sorts. Eating them would make us no better than ogres or giants, creatures we fear exactly because of their lack of culinary scruples.
So that settles it. If they have a language and a culture, then they are sentient. They are just treated worse, because it would be akin to, I don't know, allowing people to eat disabled people. So I won't allow the consumption of orc meat because it sounds like a disgusting idea.
Blimey, what a tradition we could have installed, Commander. Every time an orc slave dies, we could have had a barbecue. But no, they'll just go to waste on the funeral pyre as usual. So sad.
Well done, Commander. If we want to call ourselves civilized, we must constantly endeavor to earn the title. We have earned it today. Let us earn it again tomorrow.
I'd have thought you'd be more charitable, Commander. Orcs will die whether we give them a hand or not. And think of all those hungry street urchins. Think of their wide eyes. How they'd praise your name for being allowed to savor a tender piece of orc. Alas, Commander, alas.
Yeah, that's kind of a disgusting image.
I'm glad you do indeed agree with me, Commander. Trinculo's proposition was a particularly ghoulish one, and I hope to leave this notion behind us once and for all. Even if wild orcs will gladly eat what elf they can get their claws on.
If the spirit of orcs freely stalked the blood of the innocent, and the end of the Empire would have been predestined, Commander. It has been averted. Blessing of the Seven be upon thee.
We'll wait for those reinforcements and then attack in like 2 turns or something. Maybe even in the next one. They will get a huge bonus from entrenchment, so that's what I'm most worried about.
Once your opponent...
You disappoint, Commander. I understand Catherine's ideas may be wild of concept, but more often than not, there's wisdom hidden within. When we do nothing, nothing changes, and our soldiers still run amok, to put it mildly.
I would have discussed a different solution if she wanted to, but what she proposed wasn't a good solution.
Seven had mercy on us, Commander, for they steered you to ignore Catherine and her follies. The day girls become officers is the day I grow flesh on my bones.
The army is such a sausage fest, Commander. Catherine had the right idea. Why in the blazes would you refute her ideas? Long live the quota, I say.
Sup, Commander? If you want something done well, you do it yourself. Even though I abhor expressing myself through platitudes, Commander, I am addressing a man after all, and must therefore use a turn of phrase of an unsophisticated nature. You rejected my quota of women in the army on the basis of a sophism you call the reason of merit. This gave me no other choice than to meet that reason, however fallible, and rise to its challenge. With the vast wealth still at my disposal from the days I was queen, I have founded a military academy that only women may attend. It will take time, but in due course their merits will become irrefutable, and they will slip into the ranks as officers of the realm.
That is
You may
perfectly
delay
reasonable.
the inevitable, Commander, but you cannot stop it.
I don't intend to.
I will have my way, and no sexist pig like you is ever going to stop me.
I wish them all the best, actually. Okay, so I will prepare my forces for invasion now. Where are the rest of the transport ships? Didn't I have more? Shit, I didn't. That's problematic. Well, I still need to clean this area because otherwise my aerial units and my ships would get stuck on this tile by this ironclad. I've taken
Once your opponents were proud.
We won a victory for the ages, Commander. Even your human generals showed a remarkable aptitude for ingenuity.
What a victory, Commander! And what a splendid display of teamwork!
A word, Commander, if you please. I have made an assessment of my time aboard the Raven, and you should hear it. You know my background. You know I used to be a queen in my own right, and that under my rule, women held sway. In a male-dominated world, I have tried to champion their rights, and on the whole, I have found in you an unexpected ally. My disposition may have sometimes betrayed my true appreciation. So I would like to thank you here and now for meeting my demands with dignity and conviction.
Well, it's a little ironic how, in our last conversation, he was calling me a sexist pig.
Even if a man, I know you will make for a great emperor, and it shall be my honor to fight by your side until the day comes victory shall finally be ours.
But it's still appreciated. Okay, now I must pack the rest of my horses. Hope it'll be enough. But I'll strain some additional units just in case. That doesn't look good in the slightest. Maybe I'll at least be able to weaken them. Seems I'll need yet more time.
Once your opponent...
Picture this, Commander. A lizard wakes in the night upon hearing a noise in another room. He gets up and confronts an imp burglar who eyes him evilly, dagger in hand. With one swift strike of the tail, the lizard decapitates the trespasser upon his territory, only to be charged with murder by the authorities. Have we no right to protect our property? Our families? Even with little violence? Because I think we should.
Yeah, so basically it's a question of excess in self-defense. Now, in general, I think the state should side with the victim always, because even if it may seem overboard to kill a burglar who presumably only wants to rob you, in the actual moment you can't be expected to reasonably discern the level of danger you're in. And I would say, if you're a criminal and you break into someone's home, you should take into account the possibility of getting killed by that person in self-defense. And I don't think the state should persecute that person for doing so, because in that moment he's scared for his life. He isn't really in a state of mind to conduct careful deliberation whether it's an excess of self-defense or no. So in general, I would say you should be allowed to kill burglars. Maybe not, with extreme, like, it's more of a case-by-case thing. Like, if, for example, he was already running away and you shot him in the back or something, that would be different. But if you're defending against assault in your own home, then I think in the most extreme circumstances you should be allowed to use lethal force.
I concur with Prospera. Breaking and entering another's domicile is like forcing your way into the inner sanctum of temples where only high priests may tread. A crime punishable by death.
The law may seem harsh in this particular instance, Commander, but it merely tries to prevent bloodshed. The imp did not attack, so there can be no claim of self-defense. And the lizard in question could have fled and called for the guards, but instead he chose to murder a man. Is it not just he should answer for his deed?
Well, that's actually not true. That you can't act in self-defense against the burglary, because it's still an act of encroaching upon your rights. It doesn't have to be a physical assault.
I keep a double-bladed axe under my pillow for just such an occasion, Commander. That lizard did what he had to do, and should be celebrated instead of sued.
If an imp burgles another's house, and he loses his head in the process, he has only himself to blame. And I'm not saying that just because Prospera is standing nearby with her tail wagging.
Yeah, so I will allow people to kill burglars.
Bravo, Commander. I'll see to it the accused is released forthwith and reunited with his loved ones. A great right has been wronged. For now we can say frankly and freely, we dare defend our rights.
Fantastic, Commander. Imagine the possibilities. I'll leave a trail of gemstones that no thief worth his salt could resist. And the moment he sets foot in my house, kablam! I can finally test my new shotgun.
Marvelous.
Interesting thing to
One
look at
for
it.
righteousness. 0 for that blind old bat they call justice. Very well done indeed, Commander.
You made the popular choice, Commander. But I reiterate, it is not the right one. Thieves will still stalk the night, but they'll be carrying bigger and more terrifying weapons.
That's a non-argument. Like, that's pure nonsense to say, oh, you can't, because it will force people to come armed when committing a robbery. It's not. That's even a better reason to give the people right to self-defense.
What a man builds, earns, and gathers by the fruits of his own labor are his to protect. May the end of those that would take it from him be swift and bloody.
Well, I will need to amass my armies for some time before assaulting the capital once again. Father kills son sneaking into house. Thought he was a burglar.
Once your opponent...
Okay, I have quite a lot of those mercenary cards, so maybe that will be enough. So... Three, 5. Yeah, I'll give it. Give it one more turn.
Once your opponent...
Okay, now I'll give it another try. I will still train additional units just in case. What? A little ridiculous. Okay, it seems I will have to turtle for quite a while before being able to take that. It's a little ridiculous.
Once your opponent...
Commander, for some inexplicable reason, the undead love to eat fish. Now, we lizards are of course no strangers to the ocean's bounty, but at least we treat the sea with respect, like a farmer treats his lands and livestock. At the behest of Yorick's kin, however, the dwarves are emptying the deep at an alarming rate. So I ask you, please, regulate the amount of fish one may catch in a day.
Now, even though it seems to run contrary to the idea of free market, I think in the end it's somewhat reasonable because the natural resources are finite, so if you regulate it, you can benefit from it over a long period of time, but if you just allow, hunting the whole species into extinction, then it will only bring profit for a limited time, and then there will be nothing left.
A fine kettle of fish, this. You know, I think I agree with Prospera. Moderation is not an impish virtue. So knowing very well the results of excess, I'd say it's probably best to do as the lizard lady says.
What's all this balderdash about overfishing? There's plenty of fish in the sea. It's a bloody expression, even. Millions upon millions of the gill blighters swim the briny, for God's sake, and we're making millions upon millions in profit.
Prospera is absolutely correct, Commander. A quota must be set before the dwarves turn the seas into deserts bereft of life.
Don't listen to that backbiting reptile,
Excuse me.
Commander. Lizards and fish are no more than scaled simpletons looking out for one another. We want our fish, and by the 7 we'll have it. Prospera, you can feed her to the sharks.
Nah, I think little regulation is perhaps necessary in such a field, so I will curb the amount of fish a fisherman may catch.
I thank you, Commander. After all, the fruits of the seas are like the fruits of the trees. Treat their bearers ill, and an ill harvest will follow. An inference so simple, I thought even the undead would understand.
I knew you'd be persuaded by my finely attuned rhetoric once more, Commander. Like shooting fish in a barrel, really.
Oh yes, just fantastic. Let's shackle an entire industry for the sake of herrings and haddocks. What a farce.
Beautiful. What does Yorick's kind want fish for, anyway? Do they create aquaria full of undead crabs and catfish, perhaps? Preposterous.
No, they eat them. That's what I was told.
Why must you curb our enthusiasm for the delicacy that is the dogfish? The treat that is the trout? We like our fish morning, noon, and night. Even Falstaff understood.
Oh. I'll need a couple more turns. 3. Well defended, this spot, so...
Once your opponent...
Yeah, unfortunately I may need to amass a greater force because otherwise I not be able to take this thing, so...
Once your opponents were proud.
Okay, it's really annoying because I'm not clicking at him, it's just talking on his own.
Once your
Commander, we really need to act on the misuse of necromantic magic. Only last week, some dunderhead slipped up during an incantation, and now 5 generations of skeletal elves are demanding their homes and hearths back from their own living descendants. Enough is enough!
Okay, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be an analogy for, but maybe like rampant dangerous experiments or something? Unethical research?
7 strike that rotten dwarf. Necromancy is an art, and its practice should be encouraged, not muzzled.
Sir Falstaff and I are in agreement, Commander. Quite unnerving to have an undead woman knocking on the door claiming she's your great-great-great-grandmother, and could she please have her old room back? Or so I'm told.
Mishaps like this happen all too frequently, and more often than not, crazed necromancers are causing them. They are the least responsible of all wizards, hunted even by the elves, and we should ensure they are put under strict observation by other, more responsible sorcerers.
What Falstaff calls misuse, we imps call creative experimentation. Science is basically a series of accidents that sometimes leads to a nice little novelty. So let them incant away, those necromancers. No harm in trying.
Well, actually I disagree, so I will curtail necromantic experimentation.
Excellent. When a fellow kicks the bucket, you hold the wake, bury him deep, and honor his memory. Mucking about with his corpse is not on that list.
May the 7 strike you too, Commander. Death is not an end, but a beginning. And thanks to you, more will be kept in the grave than could walk anew. You murder them in death.
Glad you agree, Commander. Death is part of nature's cycle, and therefore to be undead is to be unnatural. Try and convince my great-great-great-grandmother of that logic, though.
Excellent.
Good. The least we can do is to demand the written consent of bereaved relatives before processes of resurrection can be initiated on deceased persons. A matter of common courtesy, surely.
Bah! You're only hampering important research, Commander. We'd kill to bring the great Costard Thundervat back to life, but no necromancer has been able to puzzle him back together as yet. They need the practice.
think I'll try again next turn. Maybe that will be enough.
One sure.
I really hope so, but... Damn it. Okay, I think I'll... give it another turn.
One sure.
Maybe this time. Okay, this is finally looking good. Okay, maybe this will be enough.
Once your opponents were proud and many, Commander. Now the pitiful that remain shiver and weep, for they know you approach. Another enemy has fallen. Before long you will be your father's sole remaining heir, and Rivellon will be yours.
Tragic news, Commander. A student of wizardry went berserk on campus and slaughtered no less than 22 fellow pupils with a magic-infused sword. Something like this never could have happened if it wasn't so easy to buy such weapons from any enchanter's emporium.
So basically, gun
I
control.
therefore propose that no citizen is allowed to buy weaponry unless he or she has been given a permit by the state after a sound background check.
Yeah, I am in favor of gun control in general. Like, I think it should be possible for a citizen to get a firearm, but then it shouldn't be that easy that you just walk into a shop and get one. There should be background checks, like you should get a license that that certifies that you received proper training, that you know how to handle the weapon and whatever. So yeah, I will restrict owning magic swords, but first let me hear what the councillors have to say about the matter.
As usual, the elves have it all wrong. We don't need less weapons, we need more weapons. If all those
Obviously,
dead
yeah, the good
students
man
had
with a
been
gun
carrying their own thunder
argument.
clubs, lightning swords, or blood rifles, that madman would have been a smoldering heap of fleshy shreds the moment he attacked another.
Tragic news.
Oberon has the right idea. Yes, every dwarf sleeps with an axe under his pillow, but that doesn't mean they should be allowed to parade through the streets with flaming hammers. And I speak from experience. Only took one sneer from a lizard afore my brother started swinging the damn thing, and now there's only ashes and ruin where once stood a whole town.
That's quite a story, although I didn't expect Falstaff to be against easier access to the weaponry, because he's a conservative, so I thought he'd be all about, you know, the right to bear arms and whatever.
I fully support Oberon in this matter and would even go a step further. If it were up to the lizards, no citizen would have license to own weapons beyond the scope of a bread knife. Permits, however, are a
Okay, that
first
is
step
kind
in the
of
right
ridiculous.
direction and should be ratified at once.
That is pushing it too far, but stricter background checks and all that seems reasonable.
What a preposterous notion. Because one sorcerer's apprentice turns out to be a few bullets short of a six-shooter. Our children should be denied the gaiety of innocent games like backyard cannonade or hide-and-seek the lit fuse. No, no, no. A weekly trip to the Enchanter's Emporium is every growing imp's pride and joy.
Yeah, I will sign stricter laws for weapon possession.
You take a load off my mind, Commander. Imagine the damage that could have been done if that student had bought an imp repeater. One blast can level a classroom.
How dare you, Commander? He who takes away our right to bear arms takes away our liberties. Why would only people of good and honest standing be allowed to carry weapons? They don't want the damn things in the first place.
A wise decision, Commander. And I'll personally ensure that particular brother of mine never gets a permit.
Well done. Massacres like the one that took place in Naxos Bridge should be avoided at all costs, even if the means are perceived by some to be despotic. Where individual responsibility fails, the state must step in.
You're kicking the legs right from under our educational values, Commander. No permit will be given to wee babes, but the younger they get their hands on the hilt or trigger, the more responsible they become. Stands to reason.
Yeah, that's foolproof logic right there. I will save and end the episode because it's been enough time. So, as usual, see you in the next one. Bye.